Oh shenanigans, how the devil are you? Have you had a good week? My name is John, thank you very much for joining me for another exciting episode of Secrets of the Motorway. You find me in Greater Manchester at the start of the 33-mile-long M56 motorway. The first proposals for the M56 came about in 1947, although at this time the plans were simply to construct a motorway across Cheshire. After 11 years of doing stuff, in 1958 the councils and the Ministry of Transport had finally agreed on a route. 10 years later, in 1968, construction would finally begin, with the first section of the M56 opening in 1971, which ran between junctions 11 and 14. The second section opened in 1972, which would run between junctions 1 and 7. Junction 1 is also known as the Kingsway Interchange, and it's a windy mess of slip roads between the M56, the M60 and the A34. I've coloured in the M56 on this map, so hopefully it's a bit easier to see what's going on. An interesting feature of the junction is the 270-degree loop, which is found on the slip road linking the A34 to the M56. Junctions 2, 3 and 3A are all crammed in next to one another at a point where the M56 seems to have an additional spur. But wait, if we're travelling westbound, we seem to join the main carriageway of the M56 at junction 3. What's going on? This doesn't make any sense. It turns out that the entire section of the M56 from junctions 1 to 3 is technically a motorway spur. And indeed, it's called the Sharston Spur, but why do we have it in the first place? Well, we can see at junction 3 that the carriageway continues north, with the M56 then ending at junction 3A, where the A5103 takes over. Of course, the original idea was for the motorway to continue north and join up with the A57M, but that part of the motorway was never built. Along the route of the A5103, we can see where space has been left for a motorway to be built, and it also explains why the interchange with the M60 is so over-engineered. At one point, it was going to be a motorway-to-motorway interchange. Anyway, none of that happened, so the first section of the M56 is technically a spur road, and we join the main carriageway at junction 3. I think the small section of M56 that runs up to junction 3A is more of a formality. The roundabout and slip roads need to be under motorway regulations to prevent any non-motorway traffic from finding its way onto the main M56, but all of this adds up to a bit of an odd junction layout. Next up is a bit of a problem. Between junctions 3 and 7 is a flight authorisation zone as a result of the nearby Manchester Airport. In short, it means I can't fly the drone around here without explicit permission from those guys, and I can't be bothered with all of that, so we're going to skip a few things. What I will do, though, is improvise and drop in a few other shots whilst we discuss the massive Junction 5. It's a result of a motorway plan that wasn't quite cancelled, but it also wasn't quite completed. At one point, Manchester had its very own ringways project underway, which involved the construction of several large roads and motorways in and around the city. Much like the London ringways project, some of it was built, some of it wasn't, and today we've bodged it all together and called it a road network. Part of Manchester's Ring Road project would have involved a motorway running from the A6 around the south of Manchester through junction 5 of the M56 and then on to link up with the M60.